What is going on, guys? Omega Mishima here, and I know I kind of been really bad at uploading lately. Trust me, I'm trying to put out as many videos as I can, but there's a lot going on. But besides the point, I wanted to try explore some of the characters' rage arts, because some are kind of more on the simple side where they use the stage as their rage art, which is fine, but others use this dome-like experience where they kind of bring you in their domain, and I really wanted to take a look closer into those specific rage arts while still looking at some of the simpler ones. And yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty interesting because some details I found in these were pretty weird and interesting nonetheless. So yeah, sit back, relax, and enjoy some rage arts.
Once and for all.
So Armor King's rage art is really interesting. One thing that stuck out to me was that there's no crowd. I thought there was going to be a crowd for some reason. I guess the sound effects tricked me, but that's kind of my bad. But yeah, this rage art is really cool to look at from these perspectives, because one thing that I for some reason didn't notice is that the ring has his logos on it. That's super cool, especially the turnbuckles and the ring post. It has it all over the ring, and that's a unique, cool touch they added. I like when you do things like that where it makes you feel like the domain is not only representing the character, but it even has some finishing touches on there, kind of showing that this is the character's area. Like, you're literally in their domain. So I kind of moved the camera around and removed some of the effects because it was kind of hard to notice Armor King and King. It's kind of hard to say. Pushing each other against the ropes before he does the giant drop. Some of these angles look amazing for screenshots. I thought it was fantastic. I did a little zoom out here to show you what it looks like from afar. As you can see, there's not really much going on. It's just a bunch of lights surrounding the ring. But still, I mean, it pulls it off really nicely. And you wouldn't really even be able to notice all this going on in the moment because it all happens so fast. Another thing that really stuck out was the effect that Armor King pops up when he goes shooting into the air. Tracks the camera. It's kind of weird, but still looks really cool from these angles. And it's just kind of trippy seeing it follow me. And in case you're interested, this is the pose that Armor King put King in his rage art. This is pretty much a neck, spine breaker, leg breaker. This thing is brutal. I mean, without the effects, you wouldn't really tell, but this is a devastating move to land that high up. Now, I try to capture the ring crumbling when he lands with King, but it happens so fast, I don't even think I would be able to capture it. I think it happens in like 2 frames. So, I mean, there's not much probably they did. They probably just added a quick effect. But, yeah. Either way, still pretty cool to see. Here's one more angle for you guys. So Jesus Christ, Fahkumram is a scary man with his rage art. I for some reason got curious to see if Bryan got sent anywhere when he got kicked that far, but so no surprise he wasn't there. Just a big crater that Fahkumram left. I mean, dude, if you're leaving a dent like that on the ground, you might think he's a Mishima. I mean, I don't understand how he has this power, for real. I wanted to kind of show it off from a different angle again because it's just ridiculous how huge this is. His rage art usually doesn't make it seem this big, but look at the size of this. And here's a little close-up of Fahkumram when he has his glowing red eyes. I think it looks really sick. Now, sadly, his domain expansion doesn't really have much but these stone pillars sticking on the ground. That's about it, really. The sky and the land was pretty much all it had surrounding.
I'm sick of that face of yours. Serves you right. goodbye. Once and for all.
So yeah, Anna's had a lot of movement going on, so it was kind of hard to record. But this was one of my favorites to record because there was so much going on. Not really like crazy effects or anything, but I mean, this was a whole prison, or I'm not really sure what you would call this area, but it looked very well put together, in my opinion. It was really interesting to look around in, especially for how much they added. I mean, they didn't need to make all these buildings that detailed. I mean, they could have passed for just adding a flat texture and, you know, worked with it. I don't know, it just, a lot of detail went into this, and I really appreciate that. So talking about buildings, one of the main questions that always pops in my head when I see them is there anything inside? And sadly there isn't, but it kind of still shows, you know, the detail that went into it. They didn't just add a flat texture over a square to make it look like one. This is a pretty decent size stage for a rage art, and I mean, when you look at it from here, you realize how small the characters are compared to this huge domain. I mean, Jesus Christ, like, talk about effort. I really appreciate the level of detail. I know it might not seem like a lot to you guys, but for me, this shows, you know, kind of like, wow, we could have gone the easy way and we decided not to. And yes, Anna, we see your custom-made helicopter. I mean, how could we not? Surprisingly though, it did have a lot of detail inside, and that's kind of surprising because we only really see it 2 times, if I'm not mistaken. One in her intro when she's doing a match, and in her rage art. So for that little amount of appearances, I didn't expect it to have, you know, a full interior and, you know, detail and everything.
Serves you right. Time to say goodbye. Once and for all.
The only fantasy here is yours. Afraid.
So yeah, one thing I thought that was pretty interesting was when he's attacking you, slaughtering you, Devil Jin in the air. I just thought it was funny how they just stand posted up right there as Ifrit slams them on the ground. I don't know. I just thought it was something they would remove, but I guess you really don't notice it when it's happening in the rage art. Now it's time for my favorite part, the domain exploring part. Forgive me because I don't know a lot of the lore from Final Fantasy or Clive, but from what it looks like they're referencing obviously Clive's story. I mean, the floor has a bunch of detail. I'll get into that later, but right now it looks pretty, you know, basic. Just a bunch of stones surrounding them, and I think they did a good job though. Makes it feel humongous. This could be a stage on its own, really. And Ifrit has some detail, man. I do not know how they're fitting all this detail into a single rage art, but look at the detail on this man. I mean, I just don't know how they fit this all into one rage art, really. I mean, the detail on him is incredible. And here's some of the floor detail I was talking about. It looks amazing. Not much really to say about this domain expansion though, besides all the crazy detail they added towards it. But I mean, any hidden details I noticed, I really couldn't find anything, sorry. Now here's a zoom out of Clive's rage art, just so you can get an understanding of how huge this really is. I mean, I'm telling you, it could be a whole stage. And don't worry, I am going to include all zoom outs towards the end of this video of all the characters that I have been shown already. Hey, I noticed you haven't skipped forward, so you kind of might as well just subscribe while you're at it. Really appreciate it. Thanks. Cool. These stages are so beautiful and amazing. If you guys want to see me cover a video on exploring them and finding hidden details on these two, let me know in the comments, please. I'll do it happily. Oh yeah, Heihachi Mishima, one of my favorite rage arts. Now, one thing about this rage art that you see now is when he hits the opponent in the chest, there's a flash of light that goes through the opponent, but what you don't notice is it's actually a giant fist that's coming from Heihachi, and you don't notice it when the rage art's happening. It happens so fast you don't even notice it, really. So I started doing some exploring, and I found these wooden sticks to the ground and some tombstones with writing on it. And I was trying my hardest to find what it meant or if it even had any meaning. But sadly, it's not really translated to anything. I think they just blurred it out and made it look like some writing was on the sticks to give a kind of demonic feeling of graveyard. But if I'm not mistaken, it does resemble Tekken 5 Heihachi's landing site when he got exploded by the jacks. I could be mistaken, but that's what I get from this. And here's a shot of Heihachi when he summons the lightning from the sky. And here's a zoom out for you Mishima fans of the rage art. Still kind of crazy to think that these rage arts are this big. I mean, it's insane. We went from Tekken 7 having really basic rage arts to this. I mean, it's kind of nice to be a Tekken fan. Now, one of the main details in Heihachi's rage art is the moon behind him when he's about to summon the lightning. And that one always caught my attention because I wondered, how does the moon look like up close? And to my surprise, it's actually a separate texture from the sky dome. It has its own texture and it looks really high quality when up close. So I was kind of surprised to see that.
Imię wszystkich Polaków! Walcz z honorem! Przesadziłem.
So here we are, Lidia Sobieska's rage art. Now, surprisingly for a white skybox and like just everything being white around, you surprisingly find some funny things about this. So when Lidia throws a hit at you and those texts pop up, I didn't know it was gonna track the camera, so it was pretty weird trying to get an angle or find some details in this rage art without the text getting in my face. Later I found out you could just remove it with the camera effect, but yeah, I mean, it follows you around, and I guess that's how they got it to match the angle the camera's in.
Walcz z honorem! Przesadziłem.
Hora de fazer valer a pena. Os ventos da vitória estão a nosso favor. Esse é o seu último jogo.
If you don't nod your head to Eddy's Tekken tag music, dude, something's wrong with you. This music slaps. But back to the rage art. There are a couple interesting things that I found in Eddy's rage art. One of the things that I was looking at was the characters around him. Now, I'm not sure who it is. The face doesn't really look familiar. It could be Jin's face, but his is kind of noticeable. So my theory is it might be Eddy just duplicated. I'm not really too sure. Oh my god, this beat is crazy. Sorry. But I think all they did was copy a character from the roster and just added a different hairstyle to them and duplicated some of Eddy's clothes onto him. That's my theory, but not too sure who they're resembling. Now, there's not too much to really look at in Eddy's rage art. It's kind of just this desert with a lot of mountains in the back. So I kind of want to explore and see what kind of assets they were using or what they did to pull off this effect. But before I get into that, you kind of notice in this sequence, they're adding and erasing some of the characters in the background to make it seem like they're surrounding him when in reality, they're just placing them wherever the camera follows. Now, here's the zoom out. So I did this so I can get a better understanding of how they created this area. And I mean, I didn't expect it to be so much copy and pasting. I know a lot of the rage arts do that, but this one was pretty much built off of two models. One was a grassy mountain and the rest was a sand floor, and then they kind of just duplicated that and made it a whole area. So I was kind of surprised to figure out that's all they really did here.
Can't hold it in. What have I
So yeah, I think we can all say we were surprised to see Zafina had one of the crazier rage arts when the game first came out. And I was surprised how cool it was, to be honest. Some interesting things here, I feel like go unnoticed also when the rage art is happening in game. But to be honest, there's not a lot going on. I mean, she's kind of just in this domain built off of crystals from Azazel. Not much really else when I explored, but I kind of wanted to take a good look at the floor she's standing on. And sadly, there were no details. I didn't find any text or anything that would hint towards Zafina, kind of just a basic floor with details on it, but still really cool to look at up close. Now you're probably wondering what it looks like from the outside, and you probably think it's just going to be another void that disappears, but I mean, it kind of looks interesting because the crystals are kind of see-through in some areas, so you can kind of still view inside. You can kind of get a better understanding of how Azazel's hand appears. So Yoshimitsu's rage art in Tekken 8 is actually really interesting. There's this effect going on where it makes it look very old school, drawing like rage art. I'm not sure what the word is for it. If you know what it is, leave it in the comments. But yeah, this one looks super nice and super interesting to explore around. I mean, it's so trippy to look at the little detail of the bamboo and just the effort that went into it, really, to emphasize the character's rage art. I really appreciate the level of detail in these, and I did a little zoom out just to get a better understanding of how much space was used to make this possible. And surprisingly, again, they used up a lot of space to pull this off. So there's a part where Yoshi's eyes kind of move around and then he spawns in. I kind of got a little angle of that going on, so really not much going on. He just spawns in afterwards, but still pretty cool to see how that's pulled off. So I noticed that when Yoshi does his slice, there's this quick box that appears. And I tried to capture it, and I found out that's how they pulled off the background turning white while still keeping him in focus. And I think it was pretty weird to look at because, I mean, it's just a white box placed somewhere in the stage like that. I don't know, it's kind of weird to look at, but really cool to see how it's pulled off. I love seeing things like this. So here's an example of a rage art that kind of doesn't have its own domain. It's kind of just using the environment. Nothing wrong with those rage arts at all. I think they're still really cool to look at, but kind of easier to understand how they're pulled off and not much to really explore besides the stage they're in. But yeah, still really cool to look at, but all I can really capture from this was some cool looking screenshots.
Soyons efficaces. Échec et mat. Dispersion.
So Victor's rage art is also the same as Ling's, where it's you see the stage, but the effects they use for his rage art are really interesting to look at from different angles. I really like this last part where it's this swirl, orange and purple. I think they pulled that off really nicely.
Now this is what I call fun. That's a knockout. Good night.
I really like Steve's rage art. Really feel the force behind those punches, the weight. But there's not much else I could have captured besides some cool looking screenshot moments. But yeah, still a really good rage art to look at too.
This is what I call fun. knockout! Good night.
حان وقت ركوب الأمواج. مهارتك تستحق احترامي. ومع ذلك النصف لي.
Playtime's over. You can't beat me. And you never will. 本気で行きます。そこだ。手応えあり。
I don't know if it's me, but something about Reina's face here looks so weird. But yeah, we're doing another domain one finally. The other ones were interesting, but I love looking through these. So one thing you may have noticed when she was doing her rage art is Heihachi, or the character that's in the rage art, doesn't appear until it zooms out enough. So when I looked around, I didn't find anything really yet. I was kind of just trying to see if there was anything that stuck out. But what interests me was what happens when that effect pops up of Heihachi's silhouette. And I didn't expect it to look like this. I mean, it was chaotic. And I thought that was the moon from the background, but then I realized the sky dome is still in place. So they actually added another moon close up to kind of add it in where it aligned right. So then I asked myself, are they still in that effect? And yeah, they were, surprisingly. So I decided to take the camera as far as I could to try to reach the moon, or I guess you can call it a sun. I'm not sure what this is, but I tried to reach it. And as I got closer, it got weirder because some effects started to disappear, and you kind of notice it's really far into the distance here. Like, it was going far. And I didn't think it was ever going to get close to me, but then I started noticing it get bigger, so I kept on going. And when I got to it, yeah, it was the same as Heihachi's rage art. Kind of big skybox though. It's humongous. I mean, I didn't think I was gonna really reach the end. But yeah, all you really see when you get that far is kind of bits and pieces of the stage.
You won't see this coming.
So Raven's rage art is actually really cool to look at when in game, but when you kind of take the camera around, you realize there's not a whole lot to it. I tried my best to capture some of them for you guys, but all I can really get was, you know, the rage art from when they were attacking him, and you can kind of see they kind of just clip through him and have this effect to kind of make it look like they're going through him. Not really much else I could find, but still one of my favorite rage arts for sure.
I'll show you. Us, strongest in the universe.
So one thing I want to point out about Paul's rage art is it actually looks really beautiful. The background and the galaxies, it looks really nice. And I also noticed the text is layered behind him, so even Law is layered over it. So I thought it was pretty funny to have as like maybe a screenshot or something like that. But yeah, I also was wondering if the planet behind him was a flat texture, and it turns out it is. It's not really surprising because you wouldn't really get too much of a crazy angle from it, but there are some particles of galaxies in the background that I don't think are really visible from his rage art. So kind of interesting they still added that there. So I took the camera a little further and realized it's a really small skybox, not too big compared to the other rage arts, but really simplistic. I mean, a couple effects here and there, and it pulls it off well. So why really add the unnecessary detail if it looks good already? Awesome to see what it finally looks like without that one perspective we get for a couple seconds. And so I added a spotlight on Law in order to get him in this position where I thought it would make a pretty funny screenshot of him with #1. Now for a pretty fast rage art, another interesting thing about it is when his sleeve from Paul rips open. I thought that was a pretty interesting detail that I always wonder how it was pulled off. So I kind of try to pause it at just the right moment to see what they did, and I realized it's kind of a flat texture effect, not really much to it. And I mean, it pulls it off right. I don't think adding detail to it would really make sense. I think the way they pulled it off was actually really smart and kind of makes sense, really. Man, I don't know why I picked Kazuya for this rage art, but only real interesting thing I found from Panda's rage art was the pose the character's in order to perform that spin. That is the wildest pose to be in.
Merci.
Witness the essence of Wing Chun. Like steel. Strike! Not like this!
So the Grandmaster of Drip. This man is an Oro farmer. I don't care what you say. But yeah, I mean, Leroy's was pretty interesting. A lot of cool effects, but that's really all it was. Just some effects showing off. I like how the dragon still has some detail on his tail. I try to look deeper inside the dragon's face, and I mean, it was kind of basic, not much to it.
Okay, legen wir los. Nimm das. Dich mach ich fertig.
So I don't know who told Leo he's Spider-Man, but he took this role a little too serious. But I was wondering, where does the line that he shoots go to? Does it just disappear, or what's going on there? And yeah, it basically just cuts off. Once you see it from a far distance, you realize it's just ending there. So not much to that, really. Is my humor broken, or do I think this view of Nina is hilarious? So I was wondering if the rose that pops up behind Lee is actually like detailed, or is it just an image illusion? I didn't know what to think, but this version is kind of hard to tell, so I kind of had to angle it a little weird. But yeah, basically it's a full 3D effect and it's shaped like a rose. I think this is one of the best effects they pulled off in this game. I absolutely love this rage art, and to see it from these angles and just to see how they shaped it to be, it's absolutely amazing. It's brilliant. Excellent, even. So tell me I'm not tell me this isn't the most ridiculous thing. Some of these rages really are so weird to look at when they're out of context like this. Like Law is just happily, he's not even happy, he's just jumping with a straight face. I mean, it's the weirdest thing to look at. Now the craziest thing is how high Law jumps. Like, dude, you're in the wrong sport. But yeah, this angle of Law is no better either than the other one. But not much else I found from his rage art, sadly. So something that bothered me when looking at this effect is how they don't line up with each other. I don't know if it looks different in action, but it was kind of weird. And one of these effects, when he's zapping through you, is a flat texture, but that's no surprise seeing how fast it happened. Another thing is when he slams you on the ground, you notice these rocks pop up, kind of showing how the floor has broken. but when I went to check out the texture on them, it was, I think, from a model of an airplane, or I don't know what it is, but it looks like some sort of metal, and I thought that was kind of weird, kind of a rocky texture. Yeah, a lot of our reactions was the same when we saw this rage art for the first time. But the fish is what I really wanted to focus on. When it explodes, it had this little tracking effect. I guess when the screen or camera is set up, this is supposed to appear in front of it. And the explosion effects are kind of tracking as well, like Armor Kings in the beginning. Now, I wanted to try to capture the fish in between opening to see if it was a seamless animation or if it just does a quick swap. And it looks like that's what it did. It just swapped between the regular fish and the robotic fish. So sadly, I really couldn't find anything much to look at in Kazuya's rage art, but I did think it was interesting the way these rocks come up, kind of showing the grounds breaking when he slams the opponent. Not much else really. I just wanted to kind of look into it and see what it looks like up close, but yeah, that's pretty much all I could sadly find for Kazuya. I'm gonna try not to talk too much because this song is really peaceful, but yeah, there's not much to Jun's rage art, but you can kind of already tell what I'm about to show you here. So yeah, Jin Kazama's rage art. This one's kind of interesting. When the wing pops up, it's actually just a flat texture shaped like the wing that pops up, but it has this highlight around it, and it's actually visible more from the back, which tells me this probably is the same wing that's used throughout his moveset. So yeah, Jack's gun kind of just spawns in from the air, so I was more focused on the beam when he's shooting the opponent, because I thought it was so interesting how the inside of the gun looks when it's happening, and for some reason Jack sinks into the ground mid through that animation. I'm not sure what that's about really. I thought another interesting thing I might note is that the shot that comes from that gun is actually shooting towards the opponent's head, so that's a headshot. That giant beam is not a body shot just hitting the whole body, it's a headshot. And I thought that's just so crazy to be taking that to the head. I mean, that is an insane shot to take at somebody. I mean, I don't know who's surviving that.
头日人类。碎石万段。碎石万段。有病。
So Dragunov's is not my favorite rage art, but I'm still really interested to see what's around him when he performs the rage art. And one thing I noticed is when you back away, you see that there's a tiny little shatter effect facing the camera, kind of to make up that ice breaking effect. So that was pretty interesting. I got a little distracted and put a spotlight on Dragunov's face to see what he looks like while hitting the opponent, because I don't really usually get to see his face. Now exploring the area he's in, because I'm really curious to see what they did here to pull this off. And from the looks of it, it doesn't look like they did too much. They just added a surface with snow on it, underneath a texture of snow, surrounded by a sky dome. Texture in the background looks to be repeating, so I didn't really bother to look too closely into it. Just looks like some dead trees during the winter, but I mean, it pulls it off really nicely. One last thing about his rage art that was interesting was during the end when the ice shatters, I noticed that the ice is this tracking effect while the particles that come along with it are a separate texture or effect. So that was pretty interesting, and one tracks and the other doesn't, so I thought that was pretty cool. So it might be hard to tell what she just did there, but she basically threw her head at you. But when she does that, I noticed that Lars is actually just there floating. I expected him to be kind of like not in the area when it happens all, but I guess they didn't need to remove the player during that. Now, something else I noticed was this huge box that appears when the head explodes, and it covers a lot of the stage. I didn't expect it to really cover so much of the stage.
Nessuna pietà! Risplendi, Sirio! Purifica il mondo dal male! Osserva!
¿Tienes café?
So not too much to really see on Azucena's Rage Art, but there was one question I had in what happens when she finishes the match with her Rage Art. So I wanted to try to take the camera around to see what happens, and to my surprise, the background is glued to the screen, but you can still move Azucena around. It's kind of trippy to see. I mean, I just didn't even think this was what's gonna happen. Don't worry, I didn't forget about Devil Jin. I saved them for one of the last Rage Arts because after his, I wanted to showcase Angel Jin's Rage Art and True Devil Kazuya's Rage Art, and they're all so unique and amazing, so I kind of wanted to save them towards the end. Now, with this Rage Art, the interesting thing is the way this puddle or portal opens up and just a change arrive. I think this looks so cool the way they presented this part of Devil Jin. And if you notice, I have the Tekken 5 outfit on Devil Jin. Not sure how accurate it looks, but I tried my best. Now, something interesting I noticed is the character is placed on a stone that looks like a cross. I think that was intentional, not too sure, but I also noticed the chains were connected through each stone surrounding Devil Jin. I always like checking out the skybox up close just to see how big the area really is, and it's kind of the same size as Dragunov's. It's pretty decent size, but you really didn't have to do too much besides just add a couple of rocks floating in the background. Here you can see the slash she does on the opponent, and you can notice the effect is kind of 2D-ish, so not much really to pull that off, but I think they did it really well still. Now, I was almost not gonna show this Rage Art of Devil Jin, or I guess Angel Jin, because it was so similar, but then I realized, you know, adding the white and yellow touch to it really did make it feel different, so I think this deserves to be included. Oh hell yeah, when I got to uncover True Devil Kazuya's Rage Art, I was so happy because I realized that there's a story mode and I didn't even think to check out the character's Rage Arts. Now this is the size of the area where the Rage Art happens. I kind of feel like it's like a claw grabbing onto the stage. Another thing I noticed way before I even did this video was how Reina and Kazuya have the same far distant moon, and I think that's so cool of them to add that in. Here you can see Kazuya building up that energy blast. This is before it turns into a humongous ball of energy that he shoots to Jin. I cannot tell you how fun this video was to make. I mean, this is one of the funnest videos I made in a while because this really gave me a chance to look deep into some of the creations Tekken has to offer, like rage arts and the detail they put into it. And I'm really hoping that you guys enjoyed this video because then it leaves me a chance to make more like this. And when I tell you this one is really well fitted for the last spot, is because this is one of the biggest rage arts I have ever seen. I mean, I didn't even think I was gonna reach the end for real this time. I actually was not even planning on going towards the end, but when I kept going, I was baffled at the fact that they made a sky dome this huge. I mean, I don't even know why they decided to do that, but I guess they wanted to go big or go home with this one. So I really appreciate the amount of effort he put on this. I mean, it is so majestic the way he did this. I told you, I wasn't joking. This was huge. Here's what I meant by Devil Jin's rage art that feels like this is similar. Not only are these metal rings going around like the chains in Devil Jin's rage art, but Kazuya's on a platform that kind of resembles a cross. I think they're kind of doing a little comparison with Devil Jin's and Angel Jin's. I don't know. But yeah, I took a look around the area and man, it just keeps getting more majestic. It's crazy. I really didn't even expect it to look this insane. My boy Kazuya is so mad in this pose. Thank you guys so much if you stuck to the end and watched the whole video. I really appreciate you. And if you guys have the time, please like this video, comment what you think. Let me know if you want to see me do more videos on this, maybe cover some stages or anything else you'd like to see. Let me know. I don't mind doing it, really. If you guys also have time, please follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, any social media that's linked in my YouTube description. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.